Welcome to episode 7 of the Zooch and Wilde podcast. Zooch, how you doing today? I mean, I'm
Doing
sure
pretty
you're
good.
feeling just quite dandy after this weekend.
It was like mixed feelings. Mixed feelings
Oh,
from going in from the Boise State game to the Ole Miss game, but I am happy. Ole Miss is in a better position to do more than Boise State, so I can't be too mad.
well,
Well,
we're
I
gonna
can
get
be, but
well, we're gonna get into all of that. It's a beautiful day here in the Bay Area. It was about I was in the city today, and it was about 80 to I think 85 degrees. Which a little known fact for a few people not from the Bay Area. In San Francisco, the San Francisco summer is September and October. Just a little Diego fun fact for you. So the warmest weather is then. I know Sean's sitting here. I know some other fellas, all the Bay Area fellas know it's the best time to visit the city. But let's not talk about the city because we had an awesome weekend of college football. So, Zooch, I'm going to start it off, man. All aboard the Lane train. I am so happy Lane Kiffin finally got the monkey off of his back and beat a coach that I don't have a lot of good things to say about in Brian Kelly. This is the game where the NFL elitists, people tell me all the time, oh man, I can't watch college football. It's so much worse than the NFL. This is the game that proves them wrong, in my opinion. This was so exciting, so much fun to watch. This was everything that makes college football great right here.
yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, sports are entertainment, right? And if you didn't find that game entertaining, I just find it hard to believe that you like football as a whole. You had huge crowd, not an empty seat in the stadium. You had two top 15 teams, or maybe it was maybe Ole Miss was a little below 15, but two top 20 teams. You had two teams who needed to win a game to basically save their aspirations for a great season in a lot of ways. You had great quarterback play. You had great plays
Not
throughout the game. I mean, I don't know
not
what
Jackson
else you could
Fart.
ask
I
for.
see
Like
your
maybe it was a
banner.
little too.
I'm going to show the
He
people.
wasn't. He
Yeah, I
played
guess
a
he
fantastic.
played.
I honestly think I think the one of the biggest plays of that game was that last play of the third quarter where he took it like it was like
Hmm.
2nd and 15, and he ran like 30-ish yards down the field, hurdled the
Hmm.
guy. That I mean, it was at that point that his old like he had to have known in his head, all right, we're not really getting any stops. Granted, Ole Miss did get a couple in the fourth quarter, but for a second there, I thought it was going to go exactly like that Notre Dame game went because
Yeah.
when they dropped that interception, it literally looked like the exact same play as the week before. But it was just the most Ole Miss way to win ever. Like you come back, you take the lead, and I'm not going to blame like them being up six. They had to go for two earlier, so that's why they were up six. Like it made sense.
Hmm.
But you had the dropped interception, and like the next play, you had the horse collar. It's like, oh my, like you were just like, come on, like just can you just win this and
This
not make it like gut wrenching for
it was a
once?
good game. I mean that's I think Lane Kiffin would have taken a win in this scenario any which way.
Oh yeah,
I think it's really awesome that Jackson Dart showed up and not Jackson Fart. Because this is the Jackson Dart that I've been saying it for weeks now. It's just he's good, but come on, show me that next step to become an elite quarterback, not just a good college quarterback. And this is the game. I'm not saying he's elite, but this was an elite performance. And on
yeah,
the LSU, go ahead.
and it looked more. It seemed like they came out and weren't as nervous. I guess I hate using that word, but they seemed more like free flowing and like what they were calling on offense. Like they were getting guys open. They were using their RPOs. And last week against Alabama, it almost seemed like they were afraid to make a mistake in a lot of ways. Like, oh, we can't turn it
Hmm.
over because if you turn it over against Alabama, you're going to lose. And granted, I don't know how good. I mean, LSU's defense, I think, is better than
That's what
allowing
that's what I
55
was going to
points.
say. Their
But
defense did not look like an LSU defense in that game. It seems like they had a mental lapse. Like it seems like they just didn't wake up, or I don't know if they thought they were just going to coast through Ole Miss. I would hope not. I mean, Ole Miss is a ranked SEC team. I hope they didn't think they were going to coast through. I mean, if I'm an LSU fan, I'm just hoping that Lane Kiffin called the game of his life, Jackson Dart played the game of his life, and we just got to eat that one. If that's not the case, then this is really how the LSU defense is, because they kind of got shredded a little bit against FSU. LSU
Yeah.
fans might have to come to the terms with the fact that, maybe we're an average team this year. I mean, they have a big game this next week that we'll kind of touch on later, but LSU is kind of in that middle ground, kind of like leeway world of, are we great? Are we bad? We don't know what we are. All we know is that Brian Kelly is throwing a huge tantrum.
Yeah, it was not. I thought it would be, if Ole Miss won, that they would win like 31-27, something like that. But for that first half, the first quarter and the fourth quarter, LSU could not stop them from doing anything. Even that last drive Ole Miss got, it was really kind of confusing what LSU was doing on defense because Quinshon Juggins finally had an
Oh,
excellent game.
yeah, you finally showed
Ulysses
up.
Bentley was playing really well, and it's like they weren't putting anybody in the box. And I'm just
Yeah.
like, there's not 45 seconds on the clock. There's a couple minutes. That's plenty of time to
Mm-hmm.
basically run a normal, like with 2 minutes in college and a couple timeouts, you can run basically your normal offense for at least a good portion of that.
Yeah.
Like, you probably don't want
Especially
to.
because that's when the old clock rule reverts back, and they don't have to burn timeouts. Clock stops when they move the chains.
Right. So it was a huge game for the SEC because now, granted, LSU still only has the one SEC loss. Ole Miss has one
Mm-hmm.
SEC loss. A&M and Alabama, one of them is going to have a loss after this.
Mm-hmm.
But it really sets up Ole Miss in a good position because they still have Georgia, granted, but
Mm-hmm.
before Georgia, they have A&M, Arkansas. They have Arkansas this week. They have A&M, Vanderbilt.
Arkansas.
Yeah, they should be. And I can't. They have one more SEC game, and I cannot think off the top of my head who it is. But they have a pretty favorable schedule going into that Georgia game. So realistically, if you're them, yeah, you need Alabama to lose once at least. But
Mm-hmm.
even if Alabama loses, and A&M has one loss, Alabama has one loss, however it works out, all those teams still already have their one loss, and they still are. Ole Miss got through that grind part of it, like Alabama,
Mm-hmm.
LSU back to back. They still have Georgia. They would still probably have to win that game.
Yeah.
But if they can get there, and Georgia doesn't look, I'm not saying Ole Miss is going to win, but Georgia doesn't look unbeatable by any stretch of the imagination. They've played, the SEC teams they've played aren't specifically known for being
Yeah.
great offenses. And they have Kentucky this week who look pretty good. Granted, Florida, who knows with them how good
Yeah.
they actually are. But the SEC West is going to be very.
Yeah.
And I honestly could see a 2-loss team going from the West to the SEC championship, just because I think those teams might beat up on each other a lot. Like A&M still has Alabama and LSU. Alabama still has LSU, Auburn, A&M, Tennessee. Like there's no give me games. Basically, so like this is beginning of October is when you really start seeing how that conference is going to shake out. And this is the first time in a while that I think that the West looks like it could be somebody other than Alabama or LSU.
Now that we're on the topic, we're going to continue this SEC going. Georgia, as you mentioned, had a little bit of a scare. And I know it's been touched on by so many other podcasts. I don't want to beat a dead horse or a dead UGA, as the dog fans don't bark at me, you freaks. But I don't. Is Georgia the best team in the country? I don't. Because I don't know if they are. Because then you go what, Michigan, but then Michigan hasn't really played anyone. Do you go a team like Washington, who's beat up on everyone, but they haven't really played anyone?
See,
Do you
that's
go
where I'm
with
at.
Ohio State, who's played a lot of people close, but they have that big signature win? Or do you go Texas?
I honestly would probably still put Georgia up there because I don't. Yeah, their non-conference wasn't that hard, but and Auburn, we'll see. Like their offense doesn't look great. They're still trying to repackage that whole travesty that Brian Harsin left down
Hey,
there.
hey, hey, Hugh Freeze will have those boys humming. Don't worry.
Yeah, I mean, for
He's feeling
them,
himself. He's starting to feel himself again.
yeah, and I think he'll do a pretty good job at Auburn. But it's hard for me to say that Georgia isn't the best team when they haven't lost and we're getting close to 2 years since the last time they lost was that SEC title game
SEC
in
championship in 2021.
2021, right?
Yeah.
Excuse me. So, I get the Michigans and the Texas and Ohio State and Washington, but Washington, yeah, their schedule looked like it was going to be kind of hard on paper with Boise State, usually a decent team. Michigan State normally is pretty good, but Michigan State is just terrible right now.
They're pretty
Boise
bad.
State isn't much better. Tulsa, I don't even know what their record is, but I imagine not good. And they were close with Arizona State, which, Arizona State is kind of one of those teams that I feel like goes 8-5 every year and upsets one of the.
I don't think they're going to be going 8-5 this year. It might be trouble down in Tempe. They are not looking the best. They got a good young quarterback, Jay Rashada. He's good. I mean, if I were to put, I think it's either for me right now, Georgia or Texas. Georgia argument is you have to give them the benefit of the doubt. They're doing what they're supposed to do. They're the number one team. They haven't lost. Yes, it's been close, but I feel like they haven't had a fluke win. They've just had close wins. Or Texas. Texas doesn't have a fluke win, but they also have the best win minus Ohio State beating Notre Dame out of any of the top teams, then
Correct.
beating Alabama in Tuscaloosa. You just wonder, will Texas pull a Texas?
Yeah, and I mean, we're going to learn a lot about Texas Saturday.
We will. And then we're going to touch on that. We are going to touch on that Red River rivalry. Speaking of rivalry, I think Alex Grinch has a rivalry between him and making good calls, because it seems like every week it is insanity if you're a USC fan. It is Groundhog Day over and over and over again. It's Caleb Williams playing phenomenal. You should beat Colorado by 5 touchdowns, and Alex Grinch's defense continues to let teams back into games.
Yeah, and I just don't get, I guess maybe Lincoln Riley has this, but it's weird to me because he just randomly left Oklahoma. So I don't think he's like loyal to a fault. He doesn't strike me as this like the most loyal guy in the world. Maybe he is, and that's why he's kept Alex Grinch around. But Caleb Williams he's going to be 2 straight years of having by far, in my opinion, the best football player in the country. Like I know there's a lot of people up for the Heisman right now. It's early in the season, but
it's his award to lose right now.
It's his award to
He's
lose, and
so good.
You just keep, like you said, running it back, and it's like you're USC. You have all the resources in the world, all the money in the world. What is like? I don't understand what's keeping him around unless they like it. I would almost understand if it was like it was bad last year and this year was starting to look rough. But
no, it's the same thing every year with these teams, Lincoln Riley teams. Same thing every single year.
They eventually run into someone who has a good enough defense to make 2 or 3 stops when they need to, and that's when Oklahoma and now USC would lose. He was the defensive coordinator when they lost to Georgia with Baker Mayfield, right?
Yeah, Baker played like the best game of his life, and they scored 50 plus. And they lost in overtime. I remember watching that game. I was flabbergasted that an offense that they just looked so much like seeing the Georgia defense and seeing the Oklahoma defense in that game. It was almost like even though Georgia was giving up points, it was like Georgia wasn't playing bad. It was like, oh, Oklahoma's making all the plays. When you saw Georgia score, it's like, man, the Oklahoma defense like stinks. Like they're just not making plays. And on the Colorado side, I think the hype has finally died down a little bit, which I think Dion can use as a positive. I think he can kind of be like, you know what? Yeah, we lost to 2 teams that right now are better than us.
Right.
Right now, But what we also have at Colorado is we got a lot of teams in the Pac-12 who are very average. Colorado has proven when they're playing their best, they are far from average. They are
Oh
a
yeah.
good team. So they can go on a little run here. I think if you're Dion, you got to focus up your guys and you got to go, hey, we got Arizona's of the world. We got, I think, do they have Stanford probably on there? I don't know if they have trying to think Arizona State's like those are the games that Colorado can win, and then you sneak in another upset or two, UCLA, maybe at Oregon State, you're bowl eligible, and that's like I've said this whole year, that's the goal for Colorado. It should not be all this hype that got blown out of proportion. It should be, hey, let's make a bowl, let's prove to ourselves that we can go play in the postseason, and let's build this program.
Yeah, no, he is. I think he's going to be fine there. I'm not that he thought that he was going to lose those 2 games. I don't think that's in his mindset, like, oh, we're definitely going to lose. But I think he's perfectly comfortable with where they are right now. They're still getting great recruits visiting there, packed house, on TV every week. They win a couple more, they'll still be on TV. They might not be, the big noon kickoff or primetime ABC, but they're still going to be on TV more than they have been in years. So, there's steps you have to take, and he is. Most people probably didn't expect him to start 3-0. So, if you told most people Colorado's going to be 3-2 going into October, I think they would.
Take it.
Yeah, take it. So
They take it too. Yeah. The last game of the nationally well-known games we're going to talk about is Notre Dame. Sam Hartman, I mean, say what you will, he went in to Raleigh. That's where no, is it Durham where Duke is, or is it Raleigh?
yeah, Raleigh Durham is what they call it.
Raleigh Durham went in there, and he got a win. And that final drive, I was watching at a bar. I was watching with a friend, and I was starstruck the whole time. I was going, man, this the Marcus Freeman of old. He kind of poops away a game, It's just this stuff doesn't seem to fall his way. And Sam Hartman went, I'm going to put the team on my back and get this.
Yeah, I mean, what was it, 4th and 16 that he got that first
4th and 16, he
down on? Ran the
and
ball.
I
I mean,
know NFL scouts were just salivating over that play because if you see his eyes are downfield the whole way, and then at the very last minute he goes, "Now I'm running." And I just
yeah,
know there's some like 65-year-old who works for like the Bengals who's like, "Oh yeah, yeah." Oh, maybe not the Bengals who because they have Joe Burrow. Like maybe a 65-year-old who like works for like the Rams probably.
yeah.
And this is like, "Oh, this guy can replace Stafford." Yeah.
Yeah, no, that was a must-win for Notre Dame, and I don't know that they would have done that in the years past with like Tyler Buckner, but that's why they went out and got, Sam Hartman, is to
Win a game
make
like
those
that.
kind of plays and get them over that hump that they've struggled with here recently, which is losing games like that. The teams they probably should beat. So they're still alive in the playoff hunt.
Still alive. Exactly. They're still alive in the playoff hunt. That's what I was just gonna say. I mean, that Clemson game is not as big as it could have been, but they still got USC on the schedule. They still got a couple big games on the schedule. And quickly touching on the Duke side, is it fair to say I was a little unimpressed by Riley Leonard in this game? Is that a
I
fair
think so. I mean,
assessment?
they only scored, which granted Notre Dame's defense I think is pretty good, but only scoring 14 points at home, I don't care how good a defense is, you're expected to score more than 14 points isn't going to win you many games, no matter who you're playing. Like, I can't.
No, not at
This
all.
isn't 2003 anymore where you can grind it out and win.
This also isn't the Big
13.
Ten West.
Yeah, exactly. So I felt bad for him at the end when he got hurt, but
yeah, that is a bummer. That is a bummer.
That was a tough loss. Duke, they have it rough.
Yeah.
It's not like they have
every time I think they have it rough, I just
basketball to look forward
remember. Yeah, I just remember that the same people who are in Cameron Indoor are the same ones who are in that stadium. All right, now we're going to get to a topic that me and you have put off for a couple weeks because we want to try to cover all the stuff of college football and, don't want to bore people with our own super radical opinions or whatever. But we need to address Boise State.
Do you want to go first, or do you want me to go first?
Where do I start? I mean, I'll just keep it this because I want to be as respectful as possible because I really do think there are good people in that program, like a good person. I want to preface this by saying good people sometimes mess up and they can have a chance to respond and be better from that. I'm starting to see a lot of similarities between Scott Frost and Andy Avalos. It's scaring me a little bit.
Yeah, we're at the
These
point.
legendary coaches supposed to get this like new energy into the building, and I'm just seeing something like just something's missing. Like and like he just seems like an amazing human, great for the community. He seems like the players love him, but it's like I said Groundhog Day earlier. These games are like Groundhog Day. He blows a 21-point lead versus UCF. He's lost 6 games at home since he's been the coach. He blew a 17-0 game this week. And now he's created him and Bush Hamden, who I'm still iffy on too. I not
Me too.
that the whole I don't know whose call it is pulling the QBs. At some point, you just got to ride. How I'm almost at a loss for words with the hype and the hope I had going into the season. A lot of Boise fans did, and it's now like, holy crap, are we gonna make a bowl? Like honestly, that's what I'm feeling. It's like I'm looking at some of these teams in the Mountain West going, we're not better than Fresno. Air Force is a terrible matchup for us. Wyoming seems like they can match us up for the first time in years. So I preface all my BSUS stuff by saying I hope I'm proven wrong. Hope I'm proven wrong. But if it goes down the way I think it's going to go, there's going to be some tough conversations this offseason that I don't think some members of our fan base want to have either, because some people like to play Mr. Positive and think everything's fine when it's okay to say everything's not fine.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the point I'm at is, I was very excited when he got hired. He's a nice guy. I've spent time with him. He's a nice guy. He has spent 15 of the last 20 years of his life, basically the majority of his adult life has revolved around BS Boise State as a player, assistant coach, and now head coach. That being said, that's great and all, but it's a results business. And not only has he not been getting the results, but we're at a point in time with college football where, as positive as people want to be, nobody looks at Boise State as I just don't believe most people look at Boise State as a threat anymore. I mean, you go into Washington, you get killed. The excuse there is Washington's a really good football team. Okay, fine. Washington might be a really good football team, but should they be 40 points better than a program that wants to be accepted into the Big 12 or the Pac-12 or whatever conference when all that was going on? And not only that, but this is the second or third time that there has been some type of, not travesty, but some like this quarterback situation now that he created, that our fans can get as mad at our local media people as they want to.
I also
Nobody was even talking about Maddox Madsen.
People getting mad at the local media. Get a life. Like these people cover, like they don't have a vendetta. They are covering a team that otherwise would not get coverage. I look at some other group of 5 programs. They don't get the coverage that Boise gets. Boise gets, to some degree, a Power 5 level of media coverage that I think most fans are aware of and grateful for, but some fans I really do think take for granted, because there's a lot of teams in this conference. There's a team that Boise is going to be playing this week in San Jose State that wishes they had the media coverage and the passion and the fan experiences and the players that Boise has. San Jose State wishes they had that. And I hope Andy can turn it around. I think he has the players to do so. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, and the last thing I'll say on it, furthering that point, is, I don't even know if he meant to create a quarterback controversy, but when you have a guy who last year came in, replaced Hank Bachmeier, I I said coming into the year, like, I think people might be overhyping him a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes quarterbacks don't pan out the way you think they're going to. They start out hot and teams start to figure them out, which I think has happened to a degree with Taylor Green. I
Mm-hmm.
think he struggles throwing the ball, and I think the stats back that up. When you're completing 50% of your passes, it's going to be hard to throw the ball no matter who your receivers are. But that being said, when you bench him, that's going to cause ramifications on the team. It's not like the offense has been scoring 14 points a game. I think the offense could be a lot better. And I think at times it has looked better under Maddox Madsen. Granted, I think that a little bit of that is teams not prepping for him, kind of like it was with Taylor Green last year when he first came in. Teams they didn't have film on him. There was, you have to figure out your defense, how to stop a guy who's relatively quick. But I mean, last year you had the whole thing with the offensive coordinator and the quarterback. This year you have this now, and I'm not even confident that they're going to beat San Jose State. Like, I think that kind of stuff eventually wears, and not that I don't think the players love him, but that kind of stuff eventually wears on a team. Like, you're not really winning. Like, realistically, yeah, you could say they could be 4-1. They could also be 1-4. There's a couple of plays in that San Diego State game that don't go their way, and if you're 1-4, I think those serious conversations are already being had. If you go out and lose this game, which they should win, I mean, San Jose State is not good. Every good team they've played, they've lost by 3 or 4 scores. But eventually rent is due, I guess, is what I'm going to end with. And yeah, I don't know that he'll get fired this year. I don't want him to get fired. I want him to turn it around. But if you're going into year 4 and you're averaging 5 losses a year, no matter how much I like the person, that's not good enough. Like, there's a level of respect the program should have, and I don't think they have that right now. So we'll see. Stranger things has happened. They turned it around a little bit last year, but I think this is a little bit different this year with, he's a little bit more feisty with the media now, which they're asking him fair questions. Like, you can't come out and say, we're going to call the game to what we think best suits our team and have a guy like Ashton Genty and not run it on 4th and 1. Yeah, I don't think he thought the kick was going to get blocked and returned for a touchdown, but that's one play in a game that you were up 17-0 and allowed the next 28 points to occur. So
yeah,
we'll see.
Well, glad we got that off our chest. We will retouch this subject in a couple of weeks because as people listening, we just went on for about 10 minutes, and that was more of a therapy session for me and Zooch than anything. So thank you for listening.
There will be more needed therapy if we lose to
San Jose State. Yeah,
San Jose State.
I'm not even thinking about that because I have faith that we can beat San Jose State. Last thing I want to say is I was right about Texas killing Kansas, so I was right again. But let's get into next week because we have another fantastic Big 12 matchup. It's the game of the week. It is the Red River Rivalry, as you guys can see in my thing, a little banner right here. I don't think the Sooners are going to do it. I think Texas is going to win this game. Zooch, what do you think?
I'm leaning towards Texas too. I think Oklahoma has padded their stats a little bit by making Butch Jones fall to a knee on the sideline.
Yeah. Still the best. That is still the best part about this whole season, and it happened week 1. Butch Jones on a knee.
They played someone else too that they just absolutely. I mean, yeah, they killed Iowa State last year, but Iowa State looks horrible. Talking about people who should have left when they were on top. That coach, I can't even think of his name.
Matt Campbell. Did you see him trying to fight the fan after a few weeks ago? He tried to fight the fan after the Ohio game.
Things are bad for the Cyclones now. But I think Texas is going to win it too. They seem, getting over that Alabama hump, even that Kansas game, like that was usually like a game that for some reason Texas would like struggle to win, and they just did not. They flattened them. So I'm going Texas too. I know we have
I'm
the
also going.
resident Sooner fan who has a
Yes,
few
that's what I
thoughts
was
on it.
gonna. That's what I was gonna get to. The Zooch and I both obviously chose Texas, but we felt like it was unfair to only tell one side of the story. So we will be bringing in resident Sooner fan, Cody Voisin, who has a message for Sooner Nation up there. So, Cody, take it away.
Oh, we doing this? Okay.
Well, first we're gonna watch the video first, Cody. We're gonna watch the video, and Cody, we're gonna see your pre-recorded message right here.
Rivalry, Texas versus my Sooners. And let me give you a little backstory. Last 10 years, Oklahoma's got it done against Texas in this rivalry. Last year we got stomped, 49-0. Unbelievable, embarrassing. I think we bring a lot of high-powered offense to the game this week. We're 5-0. We just beat a very shitty Iowa State team, 2-3. Dylan Gabriel played pretty damn good. I think he went 26 for 39, 365 yards throwing, and he had 3 touchdowns. So I think our offense is good. Our defense always scares me, like usual. I think it's one of those things where it's just like we have a high-powered offense, and then we have a defense that's just kind of, not really there. We've let a lot of teams come in and beat us in a lot of big games in the last few years. And in the past, 10 years ago, because of our defense. I think we need to come out, fire on all cylinders, establish the run, and kick their ass. Texas has Quinn Ayers at quarterback. That guy's slinging the rock. They beat Alabama this year at Alabama. It's a huge dub for them. They're looking on the up and up, and they stomped us last year, like I said before. I think our defense needs to step it up, and we need to really limit that offensive attack from Texas. We have a middle linebacker. I forgot his name. Pretty big kid, 6'4", 241 pounds. He's got 21 tackles on the stat sheet so far this year and 2 interceptions. So I think if he comes out and he plugs that gap, man, I'm hoping we can establish that run defense quick. Like I said, dude, horns always down. Boomer Sooner, Zooch and Diego. This is like a varsity blues moment when all the boys are hung over in that huddle and that AC/DC thunderstruck comes on. That's what I imagine. Just two teams just going at it and getting physical and fucking each other up. Big hits all the way around. Oklahoma needs to come out, like I said, fire on all cylinders and get it fucking done. Can't have another embarrassment like last year. Fuck no. Fuck no. Fuck Texas. Horns fucking down. Let's fucking go.
Yeah, all right. Yeah.
Cody, anything else you want to add on top of that real quick? That was great. That was, I think, the passion that Sooner Nation needed.
I do have one question for you, Cody.
Yes.
If this is the varsity blues moment and halftime Dylan Gabriel is limping off the field, are you okay with Brent Venables going Bud Kilmer and sticking his knee with a needle to keep him in the game?
Hey, whatever's necessary.
Come on, Cody. What about the healthier players?
I'm just kidding. Hey, when Billy Bob was sitting there, he's just like, if you stick that needle in it anywhere near Wendell's leg, I swear to God, I'll rip your arms off your fucking body and beat you to death with them. And then he just, Billy Bob was fucking serious.
All right, and then Cody. Oh yeah, go ahead, Cody.
Oh yeah, boys. I mean, it's simple as this. Oklahoma's getting a little bit too much hype right now. We're 5-0, and we beat every single team we played is dog shit. I don't want to hear. Iowa State sucks. They suck. They had a fucking matchup with Oklahoma State, and Oklahoma State just lost by 40 to fucking South Alabama. Now that's an embarrassment in itself. The Big 12 is the shittiest it's looked in fucking years. The only thing keeping it together is that hype that fucking Texas got because they beat fucking Alabama in Tuscaloosa. Oklahoma, yeah, sure, we beat Iowa State by 30, and our team played well. But this is the first test, fellas. This is the first test. It could be a fucking slaughter. It could be an absolute 1800s old-fashioned Frenchmen slaughtering their pigs for money. It could be an embarrassment to Sooner Nation, but I'm trying to be optimistic here. I think our defense, like usual, is always shaky. You're going against Texas. Those guys like to sling the rock, but they also like to run the football, which scares me as well.
All right, Cody. How about I ask you this? Number one, Zooch and I were talking. You said Oklahoma looks really good. How much of that you think was just the Pat statting and breaking down mentally of Butch Jones week one, making him put to a knee? First of all, I think Oklahoma should be put in jail for what they did to Butch Jones. What they did to Butch Jones was inhumane, wrong. You almost killed him.
Maybe
And that's
illegal.
part of the reason that's part of the reason why I'm picking Texas, because I'm backing my dog Butch. And what the Sooners did to Butch Jones is unacceptable in my book. And I also think Quinn Ewers is going to have another great game. But what you guys did to Butch Jones, unacceptable. That was mean.
But
Mean.
yeah, Butch Jones. What's the shitty part is that he's looking at that game losing 70-0. He's like, my career's over. He's like, I've coached at some pretty big schools, and now I'm here, and I'm on a knee crying because I just lost to 70. The best part about that video is when the fucking player pat him on the back. I was just like, there's just nothing you can say. You guys are dog shit. But yeah, boys. I mean, like I said, dude, limiting that quarterback, it's putting pressure on him all fucking day long because he sits back there with that fucking big ass offensive line. He's gonna have a heyday. Like I said before, the worst part about Oklahoma every single year, and I'm sorry to dog on some positions, is the secondary. It's the damn DBs and the safeties, dude. We get these small ass dudes that can't cover shit, but our offense has always bailed us out. Look at Georgia, 56-48 game, dude. Georgia just couldn't stop our high-powered offense, but our fucking defense shit the bed on every drive, and it went into double OT, and we know what happens. I mean, every year I've seen Oklahoma just give it up on the fucking on the defense, and it's about sticking it this time. We just got to come out hard.
We'll see. Zooch, do you have any last questions for Cody before we move on?
I don't think so. We appreciate your insight, and we appreciate you getting enough F-bombs in here for the podcast for the next 6 years.
Yeah, might have to cut some of those out. But we'll see what happens.
Hey, it's
man.
passion. It's passion.
Like always, horns down, man. So Boomer Sooner Nation, we need you there. We need you to ride. Defense, get it done. I'm gonna be yelling, stop the run all day. Get it done, fellas. Get it done.
Awesome. Thank you, Cody. Thank you, resident Sooner fan. We'll be getting a statement from Cody after the game, win or lose. So that was a lot of Red River rivalry, but I think it's well warranted because this is one of the bigger ones in years. I guess the rest of the week, it's a kind of a weird world of ranked matchups. I'm going to pull up the list of ranked matchups. They don't even feel like they should be ranked matchups. It's Kentucky versus Georgia. Kentucky's always like, is it just me or is Kentucky always like 20 in the nation going into like mid-year and then they just lose like 4 games in a row?
Kentucky, I would bet that has started 5-0 ever since Mark Stoops got there and ends 8-5 every single year.
And I think this is the start. Look, Kentucky, if you beat Georgia, we will talk about you a lot. But I think this is just going to be the start of, like you said, their little SEC loss run. Notre Dame versus Louisville. Louisville kind of out of nowhere. Plummer, Cal transfer. He got out of football purgatory, which is Berkeley at the moment. Louisville looks pretty good. But I think Notre Dame kills them.
I think so too. I think that's a 38-10 loss for Louisville waiting to happen.
All right, let's keep busting them out. LSU Mizzou. Man, can we find a sadder top 25 matchup than this?
Nope. And I'm going to talk about a little bit about that one later. That is just you have the Mizzou side who probably thinks
like Drinkowitz
now.
That guy, we think some people are soft. That guy, you say that guy's hair smells bad, and he's gonna go off on you at SEC Media Day.
He will. It's him versus Brian Kelly. No film crew is safe right now on the LSU side of the ball.
Yeah.
Must win. If you're in the film crew, must win.
Other than these ranked matchups, kind of quickly touching on it's just kind of conference play starting for a lot of people. A&M, Alabama, USC is going to Arizona, Oregon State's playing Cal. We were just getting into the real meat of the schedule right here. So, I mean, one of these games that we don't think is going to be a huge matchup that a top team plays is going to end up being really, really close. I remember that Ohio State Northwestern game from a few years ago. I feel like there's going to be like one of those this weekend. So I'll just have to be flipping the channel constantly to trying to figure out what that one game is.
Yep, it's going to be one of those weekends where you just make sure you have the ESPN app loaded and you're watching that. You'll probably flip through because there's a million commercials now in college football, and you just got to find the right matchup.
I give Chip Kelly a lot of sometimes I give him too much crap, but I am with Chip Kelly on the you got enough commercials in. We only had 3 offensive positions. You got enough commercials in. I stand with Chip. I stand with Chip and I stand with Butch. Those are my guys right there. I'm sorry, but it was really funny. Butch Jones falling to the knee. I can't stress how funny it was. Butch Jones falling to a knee and crying after he got beat by. He's still my guy, and it was still mean what Oklahoma did to him. But it's funny.
That's the moment of the year right now for me.
I don't know how you could top it. It's too good. Speaking of too good, one of my favorite. This is my favorite segment of the week. I look forward to it every single week. It is the meme matchup of the week. Zooch. I will start this one off this week. This week, my meme matchup was Jonathan Smith. Boy, that's a tongue twister. Jonathan Smith versus cancel culture. Jonathan Smith, head coach of Oregon State, had to issue an apology this week because I don't know if you saw this, a certain signal he was making to milk the clock where he took his nipples and he twisted them. Now,
it was great.
Was it a little bit inappropriate? Yeah, maybe if you're 9 years old. But to me, it was funny. I thought it was fine. I thought it was funny. I don't think he really. I think he's just doing this because it's not so much of like he thinks something bad's gonna happen. It's more like, let me just kind of cut my losses just in case. And I think Jonathan Smith is kind of that guy. He's kind of stoic, classic coach, almost like that Coach Pete model, Coach Peterson model of kind of like, a player's coach, but not like this rah-rah guy. So, yeah, the fact that he had to issue an apology in my mind was just ridiculous, but I'm not Jonathan Smith, and I don't run a great program like he's doing at Oregon State, so he must be doing something right.
Yeah, I mean, I thought it was funny. I didn't see it live, but I do keep seeing the video and keep laughing every time I see it. Just at like the visual of him doing that because I still can't figure out if that's just their hand signal for it or if he was doing it.
Yeah,
to, like,
it was
funny.
milking the clock. It was milking the clock. That's why he did it. It was like it's like his areolas were cow udders. He was milking the clock. Yeah. I thought it was great. Jonathan Smith, keep it up. I really hope to see Oregon State in the New Year's Six Bowl this year. I don't know if that's going to happen because they lost to Wazoo. Zooch, what is your meme matchup of the weekend?
Mine is, it's an underrated matchup that is going to be on Fox, primetime Fox spot. The Fresno State.
Yep.
Fighting in the stands. Almost killing Pee Wee football players. Bulldogs.
Oh my goodness. We're gonna have to clip. Are we allowed to clip that fight and post it to our Instagram? We'll do that Fresno State week. Fresno State week versus Boise. We will post that fight.
That is one of the, if not the funniest things I've ever seen happen at and it probably doesn't sound as funny like us just talking about it, but if you see
once we post it or show it, there's a Pee Wee football team involved. There's a guy in a Redskins jersey involved. There's a cop involved. There's a guy who ends up getting slammed who has like nothing to do with it involved. There's beer being thrown. There's guys yell. It is a phenomenal vid. It is.
And I just love this matchup because it's not only that, but you have Craig Bull and Jeff Tedford, two guys who I think would, in their minds, football in like 1987 was like the perfect model. Like if they could make every person on their team wear the neck roll,
yep,
I think they would do it. And you have the barrel guy at Wyoming. You have the fact that it's probably going to be like 26 degrees already in Laramie, Wyoming. It's just a perfect. All around, it is a perfect game to watch.
And Fresno State's ranked. They're the top team in the group of 5 right now. With that Tulane loss, they kind of control their own destiny. with making a New Year's Six. If they went out, Fresno State, not the biggest program, but they're big enough that if they go undefeated and win the Mountain West, they're in a New Year's Six.
Yeah, and even if they, lose one at this point, with everyone having a couple, I guess Memphis only has one loss, Tulane has
Memphis
one, but they play
I'm
each
not
other
high
this
on
week.
Memphis. I mean,
I'm
they
not
barely
either.
squeaked by Boise. I mean, because they're gonna have Tulane on their schedule, Memphis, right?
They play
I don't
this
even think
weekend,
they'll.
yeah.
Yeah, I don't even think they'll beat Tulane. So I think that's Memphis's second loss right there. But no, that's a great matchup. It'll be fun. It'll be fun to see. I haven't really seen a lot of Wyoming. I think the majority of my Wyoming watching was that Texas Tech game, where it was I was almost like blinded by like what was happening in front of me, more than like the actual like breaking down of what was playing, because it was this hype Texas Tech team, and no one thought Wyoming was going to win, and they kind of shocked the world. Wyoming's only loss has been to Texas, who I think is the best team in the country right now, and you got a ranked Fresno team. When's the last time, if ever, do you think more than just the Fresno metro area and the state of Wyoming was excited about this game?
Never in the history of the sport. Like, I can't even think of a year that they were both like really good and played each other. Like, Fresno is usually, especially under Tedford here recently, they've been pretty good most years. But Wyoming, they were good the 1 year under Josh Allen, excuse me. But other than that, they're like 7-6 every year. So this is, I mean, the winner of that game has a really, really good shot to get to that New Year's Six bowl.
I'm gonna get into Wyoming later in our next segment and last segment of the day. High-low Buffalo. High-low Buffalo this week is teams in the rankings. So the high is obviously a team that we think is going to move up after this week. Low is a team that's going to drop, and Buffalo is a team, who knows what's going to happen. They could move up when they think they should drop. They should stay the same. Buffalo is the call it the chef's choice pick of this week. But for my high, it is the Wyoming Cowboys. I think Wyoming beats Fresno State in Laramie and bumps up and takes that 25 spot from Fresno State.
That's your high? My high this week is actually going to be Texas. I think that they're going to come out, like you said, and prove that they're one of, if not the best teams in the nation. I just think that they have it all rolling right now. I think Oklahoma probably is a little bit overhyped. I could be drastically wrong, and Oklahoma could kill them for some reason. But yeah, that's my high for the week.
One thing that we didn't touch on in the Texas-Oklahoma game, that if Oklahoma ends up losing like really, really bad, what are the odds that they show the clip of the bandwagon tipping the ball here? That's a guarantee.
It will be Barstool, tweet it, College
Sickos
Football
Committee.
Daily, Sickos Committee, everyone will have it.
I love that clip so much.
Loaded right now
because the guy's still holding on. These are we'll have to do just like a clip show at the end of the year where we just pull like all of our favorite videos all time and just watch them run down. Maybe, like a true like boring React YouTuber. We'll just react to all the funny videos. But my low team for the week is Mizzou. I think they lose to LSU. I know LSU isn't that great this year, but I think Mizzou is being propped up by the fact that they won an SEC patch on their chest. They have that win against K-State, I know, but I think LSU beats them this week. And I think they beat them bad enough that they drop out of the top 25, and Mizzou kind of comes back to earth of like, oh man, maybe we're not a great team. Maybe we're just a good team.
I'm staying, I agree with that, and I'm staying in the SEC with mine. I'm going Kentucky. I think it's going to be
I was going to pick them. That was like my second.
7-7 at the end of the first quarter, and then 24-7 at halftime, and ends up being like 38-10.
This could be the game where Carson Beck somehow has like 3 play action passing touchdowns.
Yeah, Brock Bowers will feast, and I agree. I think
Brock Bowers is so good.
I think Missouri and Kentucky are the same team basically. They're going to end up in the same spot.
I think Missouri and Kentucky are the same team, except one of their coaches is an annoying weirdo, and the other is Mark Stoops. So kind of narrows down the options there. And my Buffalo team, I keep harboring on them every week because I think I'm just like, this is like, you ever play that game where you get a pint of beer and you get a bottle cap and you float it and you put drops of beer on that bottle cap and whoever sinks it loses.
Yeah.
That is like watching USC for me every single week. It's just someone adding another drop on that bottle cap, and it's just drip, drip, and which drop is going to let it sink. And I'm not saying that the drop this week is going to sink the ship, but I think this is going to be one of those ones where it gets a little low. It's like, whoa, because they're going into Arizona. It's a night game in Tucson. Arizona, when they want to get up for a game, they get up. They go crazy down there in Tucson. Uh, go Cats, bear down. I think Arizona plays tough, and I think USC has one of these games again where it's like Arizona State, and they just don't put them away, and they just let them hang around. And it's Caleb Williams playing well, and a bunch of defensive players playing poorly.
Yeah, I can see it. I don't with that defense. It's just hard for me to say USC is. I mean, they still have like Washington on the schedule. Oregon. I think USC plays
They
Oregon
got
this
it.
year. Maybe they don't. But yeah, I agree with that. And my team's kind of similar. I'm going with Miami on mine. Like I don't necessarily know that they're going to lose to Georgia Tech, but a Georgia Tech win isn't going to shoot them up in the rankings unless there's a few upsets. And I think that until Miami gets to that FSU game, which is going to be make or break for their season, they're just kind of sitting there right now. They've been bad
That's
for so
going to seem
long
like
that they
such.
don't really get the.
I just know that's going to be a drag for Hurricanes. It's going to seem like every week is like pulling teeth because as much as you want to say, oh, it's week to week, it's week to week, everyone at Miami is just looking at, man, that potential undefeated matchup of FSU Miami, which if happens, there's a reason that we use this logo right here. There's a reason that that's our logo. And yeah, I agree with the sentiment that Miami might get lulled. You know, Georgia Tech plays tough, and they're not great, but they play
Yeah.
tough. So yeah, Miami and USC, they seem to be one and the same sometimes. You know,
They do,
just
and
kind of putter
there's
around the hype machines, and they're good, but they never seem to get over the hump in modern history.
right, and yeah, it's going to be an interesting week because there are some of these like matchups that traditionally you think, oh, Georgia's going to kill Kentucky. USC should beat Arizona easily. I mean, other than that Red River rivalry, it's a lot of like a little bit lower, I guess, not even rivalries, but like teams that play each other every year that usually one team comes out on top.
This is like the weird trophy bowl. Like someone's gonna win, like someone's gonna win
Paul
like
Bunyan
a
X is on the line this weekend,
yeah.
I think, and that
It's
wasn't
gonna be
Michigan.
like
And
oh man, I'm gonna win like the bronze like shoe tongue like this week. Like what the hell is that? My Tim Robinson. What the hell? There's gonna be some weird trophies won this weekend, but as always, I'm gonna watch them all. And it's gonna be awesome.
I live for it. We're about to be halfway through the season, which makes me
Oh,
sad.
don't tell me that. Yeah, don't tell me that. Well, it's been an awesome season so far. And Zooch, anything else to add?
I don't think so. Just watch the games. Tell us when we're wrong. Acknowledge us when we're right.
Haven't been wrong. I haven't been wrong as of lately. I know that's gonna get clipped when Texas loses, and I'm gonna have to listen to Cody, our resident Sooner fan, scream in my ear about how I was wrong. So, Steve Sarkisian, please, for my sanity, don't let that happen.
Don't.
But
yeah, so
please.
We'll see. I'm excited for this weekend. I think that you have a chance for some upsets, but I'm not willing to go there because until teams like Kentucky start doing it, or I don't think there's any chance in hell that the Thai man PJ Fleck rose. He could have a Titanic and couldn't get a first down on Michigan with how he coaches offense. So we'll see.
Yeah. Hey, you have to respond. Be legendary. That's a PJ Fleck quote. But like PJ Fleck in probably 3 years. Later, everyone. We are leaving. Yeah, and we'll see you next week. Thanks for listening.
Yeah, thanks everybody.